Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into something pretty cool.
Yeah.
The music of Interstellar.
Awesome.
Have you seen Interstellar?
Absolutely, yeah. One of my favorites.
Okay, great. So you know that music, that main theme, Cornfield Chase?
Oh, yeah?
It's like everywhere online. People use it for like personal victories and like heartwarming reunions and stuff like that.
It is, yeah.
It's really everywhere.
Yeah, definitely a popular one.
Why this music is so powerful and why it connects with people on such a deep level.
So we're going international this time.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to kind of dig into this and see what we can learn about it.
Get into it.
Yeah. So I guess the first question is like, even if you haven't seen the movie, you've probably heard this music somewhere. Why is that? Like, why is this music and all things so popular?
That is a great question. Yeah, I think the essay points to a couple of things. And one of the things that they point to is the use of the perfect fifth.
Okay.
And don't worry, it's not as complicated as it sounds.
Perfect fifth.
The perfect fifth is essentially the distance between two notes. And you can think of it as kind of the foundation of a house, musically speaking.
Okay.
It provides this sense of stability and resolution, this feeling of like coming home almost.
So like a musical anchor.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And how it works in Cornfield Chase, if you listen closely, there's this low, repeated note underneath the melody. And that note acts as the grounding force. It's the perfect fifth in relation to the other notes.
Okay.
And because the music keeps returning to that bass note, it creates this feeling of being tethered, of coming back to this place of security, even while the melody soars.
I see.
Takes you on this journey.
So it's like musical gravity.
Yeah.
No matter how far the melody goes, it always comes back to that root note.
Yeah. And what's fascinating is that the essay points out that this is actually something that composers use to evoke a sense of completion. So Zimmer's tapping into something very fundamental about how we perceive music to create that emotional effect.
That's cool. So for us as listeners, that constant return to the perfect fifth is what gives us that feeling of resolution. Like even when the music is really epic and soaring, there's still this feeling of like coming back down to earth, just back to something familiar.
Yeah, and then the essay also talks about these recurring musical phrases that pop up throughout the film, like musical motifs.
Okay.
And they're kind of like little musical questions that appear whenever the characters face a challenge or a tough decision.
So it's like their theme song for facing the unknown.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And at first they're subtle.
Yeah.
But they become really significant as symbols of exploration and struggle. And here's where it gets really cool. The motif actually changes depending on the context. So for example, when a mission is failing, the music becomes much more subdued, almost mournful. And get this, if the exploration is based on a lie, the motif takes on this more sinister quality.
Whoa, so the music is like foreshadowing what's going to happen.
Exactly. Zimmer is a master at using music to enhance the storytelling.
That's amazing. Okay.
And speaking of storytelling through music, the video essay points out this fascinating connection between the use of the pipe organ and the film's theme of humanity's fight for survival.
The organ? Okay, now I'm interested. Tell me more about this.
Well, a pipe organ needs a massive amount of air to produce those big sounds.
Yeah.
It has to be constantly fed air to keep the sound going.
Okay, lots of air equals big sound.
Yeah.
What's the connection to Interstellar?
Think back to the opening scene of the film.
Right.
What do you hear before we even see anything?
Wind. It's like wind and dust storms raging across the earth.
Zimmer is setting the stage not just visually but sonically, with this element that's so vital for life. It's like the organ itself is gasping for breath, mirroring this struggle for survival we see on screen.
So it's not just about the sound of the organ, it's about what it represents.
Exactly. And what makes it even more interesting is that the organ is usually associated with this grand, even divine presence.
Right, yeah.
But in Interstellar, it represents something very human and vulnerable.
It's almost like the organ is a character itself in the film, representing humanity.
It's really clever how Zimmer uses these cues to add these layers to the film.
I'm already seeing this film in a completely different light.
It's great.
What other sonic secrets did they unearth in this essay?
One of the most subtle yet effective techniques Zimmer uses is how the sound mixing changes.
Okay.
Depending on the character's distance from Earth.
Oh.
The closer they are to Earth, the music has this heavier, almost air-filled quality. But as they journey further into space, that airiness fades. It's as if the sound itself is being stretched thin by the vastness of space.
That's really cool. I didn't notice that.
It's very subtle.
when I watched it.
But it's a really clever way to reinforce the sense of distance and isolation that the characters are feeling without having to tell the audience.
It's all happening on a subconscious level.
Exactly.
Wow, that's amazing. It makes you realize how much thought goes into this.
Absolutely.
Like, it's not just random. It's all very carefully planned.
It's like a secret language that's happening beneath the surface of the film.
And speaking of hidden messages, there's one more sonic element from the essay that I think you'll find really intriguing.
Okay. All right.
It involves this almost unnoticeable high-pitched tone that's present throughout the entire film.
Okay, is it like a hum?
Yeah.
Almost?
You could describe it as a hum,
Like-
something that you don't really notice. It's not a melody, it's more like this textural element that's woven into the soundscape, almost like white noise lurking in the background.
Okay.
But here's where things get really crazy.
Okay.
When Cooper finally solves the gravitational equation, that insignificant tone suddenly transforms into a rising melody.
No way.
Really?
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's as if the music itself is celebrating the breakthrough.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So is there a particular scene where it happens?
It's spread throughout the film, but the transformation is most noticeable during that scene where Cooper cracks the code.
No.
It's such a brilliant use of sound design to mirror the character's journey.
Yeah.
This persistent tone represents the unsolved mystery, the struggle. But when that mystery is solved, that same tone is released and transformed into something beautiful.
It's like that annoying noise in the background that's been bugging you,
Yeah.
and then suddenly it makes sense.
Exactly.
And it clicks into place.
It's not just a random sound effect, it represents that aha moment.
Right.
The relief with the resolution when they finally figure things out.
And then remember how we were talking about the theme of returning home?
Yeah.
Well, this high-pitched tone acts as a sonic representation of the challenges faced during the journey. And when that journey is complete, the tone is resolved. It mirrors the character's sense of relief and closure.
I like it.
Yeah,
That's cool.
my mind is blown. There's so much more to film scores than I realized. It's not just about creating a mood, it's about enriching the storytelling and playing with our emotions.
And Zimmer achieves all of this in such a subtle way.
Yeah,
It's not in your face.
yeah, it's not
Like you're nuanced.
Hans Zimmer shouting at me.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's very nuanced.
Working on a much deeper emotional level.
This deep dive is making me see film scores in a completely different way.
I'm happy to hear that.
Like you've given me the key to unlock this hidden language
Exactly.
that I never even knew existed.
I'm glad.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm ready to dive deeper into this. Let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, I want to talk more about how these sonic elements all work together to create this unforgettable experience.
Sounds good.
Okay.
It really is amazing how much is going on in the score without us even realizing it.
Yeah, and the fact that he's able to do it in a way that doesn't feel forced or over the top is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it's very subtle, but very effective. It's
Yeah.
like he's speaking to our subconscious.
Going back to my original question about Cornfield Chase and why it's used in all these online videos,
Yeah,
I think this video essay helped me understand that a little better.
how so?
It's like that piece of music embodies all the big themes of the film. You know, the search for home, the feeling of being lost, the struggle against impossible odds, and ultimately the power of human connection.
Absolutely. And when you think about it, Cornfield Chase itself is like a musical journey.
Yeah.
It's about chasing after something, searching for something that we all crave.
That feeling of belonging, of purpose.
Exactly. And remember that perfect fifth we talked about, that sense of resolution. That's what makes Cornfield Chase so powerful, especially when it's used in those online videos.
Yeah, it's like a musical metaphor for coming home or finding your way back to what matters most.
Exactly. Whether it's family or friends or achieving a lifelong dream.
Okay, seriously, chills. This entire conversation makes me want to rewatch Interstellar with a whole new ear.
You should. It's amazing how much you pick up on when you're actively listening for these things.
It's like there's this whole secret language happening beneath the surface.
And it all comes down to this idea of the music working in perfect harmony with the visuals and the story to create this multi-sensory experience that stays with you long after the film is over.
And I've always appreciated music in movies, but after this, I'm realizing there's so much more to it than I thought. Every note, every sound effect, it's all very deliberate.
Absolutely. It highlights how sound is such a crucial element of filmmaking.
Yeah, for sure. It's not just an afterthought, it's essential to the storytelling.
And when it's done as masterfully as Zimmer does in Interstellar, it takes the film to a whole other level.
I completely agree. Have you noticed other films that use sound design in a similar way, where it adds these extra layers to the story?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
One that immediately comes to mind is Arrival. It uses sound in such an interesting way, blending these otherworldly soundscapes with more traditional orchestral music to create this atmosphere that's both unsettling and captivating.
Oh yeah, Arrival was amazing. I remember being completely sucked in by the sound in that film.
It's a perfect example of how powerful sound design can be.
So we've gone deep into the music of Interstellar. It's been a real eye-opener for me. I didn't realize how much there was to discover.
Absolutely. It really shows how much thought and detail goes into crafting these soundscapes and how much they contribute to the overall impact of the film.
So for everyone listening, I want to leave you with this. What films have you seen where the sound design or the music really stood out? What kind of emotions did they evoke?
And it's not just about films either. Pay attention to the soundscapes in your daily life. You might be surprised by what you discover.
You know, it really is amazing how much we take sound for granted.
It's true. We're so bombarded with it all the time that we often tune it out.
And yet it has such a powerful effect on us. Like when I think about Interstellar now, I realize how much the music shaped my experience of the film.
It's the same for me. Certain scenes just wouldn't be the same without the music. Like when Cooper's watching all those years fly by as he travels through the wormhole.
Oh my gosh, yes. That scene gets me every time.
It's just heartbreaking. The way the music swells as he sees his children growing older, it's like you can feel the weight of time and the agony of his separation.
It really drives home the emotional impact of those choices.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes Zimmer such a brilliant composer. He knows how to use music to amplify those raw human emotions.
You know, this whole conversation has made me realize that music is so much more than just entertainment. It's a way of connecting with something deeper, something universal about the human experience.
I completely agree. It transcends language and cultural barriers and speaks to something fundamental within us.
And I think that's why Interstellar's music resonates with so many people. It taps into those universal themes of love and lost hope and the search for meaning.
It's a powerful reminder that we're all connected in some way.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this incredible deep dive, I want to thank you for sharing your insights and expertise.
It's been my pleasure.
And to everyone listening, I hope this has inspired you to pay closer attention to the soundscapes around you. Not just in films, but in your everyday life.
There's a whole world of sound waiting to be discovered.
It's like a secret language waiting to be decoded. So until next time, keep those ears open and those minds curious.